Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The usual suspect society has always feared what it cannot understand. History's most infamous figures, geniuses, rebels, masterminds, were often mistaken for villains simply because they refused to follow the script. And in today's world, no one plays this role better than the Sigma male. Think about it. The lone wolf who moves in silence, the strategist who bends the rules without breaking them, the man who sees the game for what it is and chooses not to play it. He's not a hero, not a sidekick, and certainly not a follower. He operates outside the system, and that terrifies people. Because if you can't control a man, the next best thing is to label him dangerous. Here's a fact. Most of history's most compelling villains weren't evil. They were just ahead of their time. Nikola Tesla, misunderstood genius. Machiavelli, strategic thinker. Even Batman, if you really think about it, has more in common with the villains he fights than the average person. So why do people think Sigma males are supervillains? Because they don't beg for approval. They don't explain themselves. They don't play by the rules everyone else blindly follows. And in a world that worships compliance, that kind of power can look a lot like danger. But let's be honest. Who wouldn't want to be the guy everyone secretly fears and respects at the same time? Number one, they don't fear being the bad guy, if it means winning. Most people are obsessed with being seen as good. They'll bend over backward to prove they're kind, selfless, and morally upright, even if it means sacrificing their own interests. Sigma males don't have that problem. They don't care about labels. If people think they're the bad guy for putting themselves first, making ruthless decisions, or walking away from situations that no longer serve them, so be it. This is why they're often misunderstood. Society has conditioned people to equate compliance with morality. If you follow the rules, you're good. If you challenge them, you're bad. But Sigma males see through that illusion. They understand that most rules exist not to protect people, but to keep them in line. They don't blindly accept authority, social expectations, or the idea that they must always be nice to be respected. If doing what's right for them makes them look like the villain, they accept it without hesitation. This ability to detach from social approval gives them an edge. They make decisions based on logic, not guilt. They don't let fear of judgment stop them from cutting off toxic people, making strategic moves, or saying no without explanation. And because they don't play by society's emotional rules, they often end up more powerful than those who do. But here's where it gets interesting. This doesn't mean they're actually bad. In fact, their refusal to be controlled often makes them more honest, more authentic, and even more trustworthy than the so-called good guys. They don't sugarcoat their intentions. They don't manipulate through fake kindness. They simply act in their best interest and let people think whatever they want. This is why they're feared. A man who doesn't crave approval cannot be controlled. A man who isn't afraid to be misunderstood is untouchable. And that's exactly what makes Sigma males so powerful. They don't need to be seen as heroes. They don't mind being the villain in someone else's story, because at the end of the day, the people who win in life aren't the ones begging to be liked. They're the ones willing to do what others won't. Number two, they understand the dark side of human nature. Most people like to believe they're purely good. They bury their darker impulses under layers of politeness, self-deception, and social conditioning, pretending they don't feel envy, resentment, or the urge to dominate when given the chance. Sigma males don't buy into that illusion. They acknowledge the full spectrum of human nature, the light and the dark, not just in themselves, but in everyone around them. This awareness makes them incredibly dangerous because they see people as they truly are, not as they pretend to be. Unlike the average person who reacts emotionally and often blindly to situations, Sigma males operate with a level of detachment that allows them to assess people with brutal clarity. They recognize the selfish motivations behind acts of kindness, the insecurity behind arrogance, and the manipulation hidden behind so-called moral superiority. This doesn't make them cynical, it makes them prepared. While others get blindsided by betrayal, manipulation, or deceit, Sigma males already saw it coming. They know that even the nicest people have a price, that loyalty is often conditional, and that morality shifts depending on circumstances. This understanding doesn't mean they're villains themselves, but it does give them an edge. While most people cling to idealism, expecting the world to be fair, Sigma males accept reality as it is. They don't waste time wishing people were better. They simply learn how to navigate the world as it truly functions. This makes them unpredictable, strategic, and sometimes even feared, because they're always a step ahead. They can anticipate power plays, spot hidden motives, and use that knowledge to their advantage. Some might mistake this for manipulation, but Sigma males don't manipulate for the sake of control or cruelty. They simply refuse to be the fool in someone else's game. If society wants to pretend that darkness doesn't exist, that's fine. But Sigma males will always see through the mask. And when the moment comes to make a move, they won't hesitate while others are still struggling to understand what just happened. Number 3, they're always 2 steps ahead, and that freaks people out. Most people go through life in reaction mode. They wait for things to happen, then scramble to deal with the consequences. Sigma males operate differently. They don't just react, they anticipate. They see patterns where others see randomness, read between the lines when others take things at face value, and prepare for outcomes long before anyone else even realizes a situation is unfolding. This ability makes them incredibly unsettling to those who don't understand how they think. When a Sigma male makes a move, it's not impulsive, it's calculated. He's already considered every angle, weighed the risks, and planned for contingencies. By the time others are just starting to process a situation, he's already 5 steps ahead with a backup plan in place. This makes him look almost prophetic, as if he somehow knew what was coming. But it's not magic. It's simply the result of observation, strategy, and a deep understanding of human behavior. This is what makes Sigma males seem so powerful, even when they aren't the loudest or most physically dominant in a room. They control situations not through force, but through foresight. While everyone else is busy reacting emotionally, wasting time overanalyzing or second-guessing their choices, a Sigma male has already moved. And because his actions often seem to align perfectly with unfolding events, people assume he's manipulating things behind the scenes, just like a villain orchestrating a master plan. But here's the real reason this freaks people out. It's unsettling to realize someone understands a situation better than you do. It makes people feel vulnerable, as if they're being played without even realizing it. And because Sigma males never reveal their full hand, they remain an enigma, leaving others guessing about their true intentions. This is why they're often feared, respected, or even hated. People don't like being outmaneuvered, especially by someone who isn't even trying to show off. But Sigma males don't care about proving their intelligence. They just care about winning the game before anyone else even realizes they're playing. Number 4, they master skills in secret, then shock everyone. Most people love to announce their progress. They post updates, seek validation, and make sure everyone knows they're working on something big. Sigma males, they do the opposite. They operate in complete silence, developing skills behind closed doors with zero need for applause. By the time people realize what they've been working on, it's already too late. The Sigma has mastered it and is ready to use it to his advantage. This is what makes them so unpredictable. No one ever sees their growth happening in real time because they don't broadcast it. They aren't looking for approval, encouragement, or recognition. While everyone else is busy showing off half-baked progress, the Sigma is perfecting his craft in the shadows. And when the time comes to reveal it, he does so effortlessly, leaving people wondering, when did he even learn to do that? This is why they often seem to come out of nowhere with talents, strategies, or knowledge that no one expected. Whether it's in business, personal development, or a competitive environment, Sigma males don't announce their plans. They just arrive fully prepared. This controlled reveal makes their skills even more powerful because it removes any opportunity for others to sabotage, undermine, or steal from them before they're ready. But what truly unsettles people is the sheer element of surprise. In a world where most people overshare their every move, a man who silently levels up is intimidating. He creates an aura of mystery because no one knows what he's truly capable of until he chooses to show them. And when he finally does, it's usually a game changer. This is why Sigma males are often misunderstood as being manipulative or secretive. But it's not about deception, it's about strategy. They understand that true power doesn't come from talking, it comes from execution. And while the rest of the world is busy seeking attention for unfinished work, the Sigma is quietly becoming unstoppable. Number 5. They keep their plans to themselves, leaving people guessing. Most people can't help but talk about their plans. Whether it's out of excitement, insecurity, or the need for validation, they reveal their next moves long before they ever take them. Sigma males, on the other hand, do the exact opposite. They say nothing. They move in silence, letting their actions speak only when necessary. And this drives people crazy. There's something unsettling about a person you can't read. Most people rely on social cues, small talk, and emotional signals to understand what others are thinking. But Sigma males don't give anything away. They keep their ambitions, emotions, and strategies locked down, leaving others to guess, speculate, and overthink. And the more people try to figure them out, the more frustrated they become. This is why Sigma males often appear cunning or even manipulative, not because they actually are, but because their unpredictability makes them impossible to control. When people don't know what someone is thinking, they assume the worst. The Sigma male isn't broadcasting his struggles, announcing his next career move, or sharing his personal life. So naturally, people fill in the blanks with their own assumptions, and often those assumptions paint him as a villain. But here's the truth. This silence is strategic. Sigma males understand that when people know your plans, they can sabotage them. When they know your emotions, they can manipulate you. And when they know your weaknesses, they can use them against you. By keeping everything to themselves, Sigma males eliminate these vulnerabilities. This calculated secrecy makes them incredibly powerful. While others are predictable and easily influenced, Sigmas remain an enigma. No one can anticipate their moves because no one even knows what game they're playing. They let people talk, speculate, and assume while they quietly make things happen. And by the time anyone realizes what they've done, it's already too late to stop them. This is why Sigma males are so respected and feared. In a world where everyone overshares, a man who reveals nothing and executes flawlessly will always stand out. Number 6. Their morality is self-crafted, not society-approved. Most people inherit their morality from society. They follow the rules they've been taught, rarely questioning if those rules actually make sense. Sigma males don't operate that way. They don't blindly accept what's labeled as right or wrong. Instead, they craft their own code, one that serves their principles, logic, and personal sense of justice rather than society's expectations. This makes them unpredictable, sometimes ruthless, and often misunderstood. To the outside world, morality is a fixed system. Follow the laws, obey the norms, don't step outside the lines. But Sigma males see morality as contextual, flexible, and often arbitrary. They understand that what's considered good in one era was evil in another. They see how power structures use morality to control people, and they refuse to be shackled by rules designed to keep them in check. Instead, they decide for themselves what deserves their loyalty, respect, and action. This makes them look dangerous. Society likes people who follow predictable moral paths, who seek approval, play fair, and avoid conflict. Sigma males don't fit that mold. They aren't interested in being perceived as virtuous, only in staying true to their own principles. If those principles demand that they walk away from tradition, cut off emotional deadweight, or break unspoken social rules, they'll do it without hesitation. This independence of thought often puts them in the same category as anti-heroes and villains. Much like figures like Thanos, Walter White, or even real-world disruptors, Sigma males operate under a personal sense of justice that doesn't always align with public opinion. They may not be evil, but they also won't hesitate to do what needs to be done, even if it makes them look like the bad guy. What unsettles people the most is that Sigma males don't need validation. Most people want to be seen as good, kind, or morally upright. Sigma males don't care. They aren't seeking approval from the system because they don't recognize the system as their authority. This makes them dangerous. Not because they lack ethics, but because their ethics are entirely self-determined. And in a world where most people crave external direction, a man who answers only to himself is a force to be reckoned with. Number 7. They're unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds fear. People find comfort in predictability. They like knowing how someone will react, what they'll say, and how they'll behave in a given situation. It makes them feel in control. But Sigma males, they don't give people that luxury. They don't operate on predictable patterns, they don't follow social scripts, and they definitely don't care about meeting expectations. This makes them a wild card, and in a world that fears the unknown, that makes them dangerous. Most people's actions are shaped by external forces: peer pressure, societal norms, fear of judgment. Sigma males don't move like that. They don't adjust their behavior based on what others want. They make decisions on their own terms, in their own time, for their own reasons. This makes them impossible to manipulate because you can't use guilt, shame, or social expectations to box them in. And when people realize they have no control over a Sigma male's actions, it unnerves them. This unpredictability isn't random, though. It's intentional. Sigma males understand that predictability is a weakness. The moment people can anticipate your next move, they can counter it. So instead, they keep their thoughts, emotions, and intentions hidden. They don't react impulsively, they don't explain themselves, and they certainly don't give away their strategy. This calculated silence makes them a constant mystery, and people fear what they can't understand. Think about why villains in movies are terrifying. It's not always because they're stronger or smarter. It's because you don't know what they'll do next. They don't react the way you expect. They don't follow the same moral code as everyone else. They don't play by the same rules. Sigma males trigger the same kind of unease in real life. Their presence alone creates uncertainty because no one can predict what's happening behind their calm, unreadable exterior. And here's the kicker. They know this. They know that being unpredictable makes them powerful. It keeps people guessing, keeps them cautious, and gives the Sigma an advantage in every situation. Because while everyone else is desperately trying to figure him out, he's already made his next move. Number 8. They have no emotional weak spots, or at least they hide them perfectly. Most people wear their emotions on their sleeves, whether they realize it or not. Their fears, insecurities, and emotional triggers are visible, exploitable, and predictable. Society even encourages this, telling people that vulnerability is a sign of strength. But Sigma males, they don't play that game. They either bury their emotional weak spots so deep that no one can find them, or they genuinely don't have them. And to the outside world, this level of control feels almost inhuman. People expect emotional cues to gauge how someone feels, what they want, and how they can be influenced. They rely on emotional predictability to navigate relationships, conflicts, and power dynamics. But Sigma males, they give nothing away. You won't see them flinch under pressure. You won't see them crumble under emotional manipulation. And you certainly won't see them seeking comfort, sympathy, or validation from others. This makes them unreadable, and people hate what they can't read. This lack of emotional vulnerability creates an aura of untouchability. While most people are emotionally reactive, Sigma males are stoic, composed, and impossibly self-contained. They don't lash out in anger, beg for approval, or let sadness control them. Even if they do feel emotions deeply, they process them internally in silence without giving outsiders any leverage. And here's the unsettling part. This makes them terrifying to those who rely on emotional manipulation. People who use guilt, shame, or peer pressure to control others quickly realize that Sigma males don't respond the way they expect. They won't break down when criticized. They won't soften when guilt-tripped, and they won't reveal their insecurities just because someone else does. This lack of response often makes them seem cold, calculating, or even ruthless. But the truth is, Sigma males simply refuse to be emotionally vulnerable in front of those who haven't earned their trust. They see emotions as personal, not performative. And in a world that constantly demands emotional exposure, a man who keeps his feelings locked away is seen as either dangerously disciplined or just plain dangerous. Number 9. They are impeccably calculated, making them appear cold. Most people make decisions based on emotion, fear, desire, guilt, or the need for validation. They react impulsively, often regretting their choices later. Sigma males? They don't operate that way. Every move they make is calculated, strategic, and stripped of unnecessary emotion. And to the outside world, this level of detachment doesn't just seem cold, it seems almost inhuman. People are used to seeing emotions guide behavior. They expect hesitation, overthinking, or emotional displays when someone makes a tough decision. But Sigma males remove all the noise. They analyze situations with brutal clarity, weighing risks, rewards, and consequences without letting feelings interfere. If something is inefficient, they discard it. If someone is toxic, they cut them off. If a situation demands action, they take it, immediately, decisively, and without looking back. This ability to separate emotion from action is what makes them seem robotic. They don't let nostalgia keep them trapped in dead-end relationships. They don't let fear stop them from taking bold steps. And they certainly don't waste time explaining their reasoning to people who won't understand it. This makes them appear cold, ruthless, even dangerous, not because they lack emotions, but because they refuse to let emotions control them. And here's what really unsettles people. This level of calculation works. While others drown in self-doubt, Sigma males move forward. While others hesitate, they execute. While others react emotionally, they stay in control. This gives them an almost unnatural advantage in life, making them seem like villains who have transcended human limitations. But the truth is simpler. They just refuse to be ruled by emotion. They feel things deeply, but they process those feelings privately, away from external influence. They don't suppress emotions, they master them. And in a world where most people are slaves to their feelings, a man who thinks purely in terms of strategy will always seem like he's playing a different game entirely. Number 10. Their independence looks like isolation, and that scares people. Most people crave belonging. They seek out social groups, friendships, and communities because being part of something makes them feel safe. Society thrives on connection, and anyone who deliberately distances themselves is seen as an outsider, or worse, a threat. That's exactly why Sigma males unsettle people. They don't reject connection entirely, but they don't need it the way others do. Their ability to exist entirely on their own terms makes them look isolated, detached, and even dangerous, like a villain plotting alone in the shadows. To the average person, independence is conditional. It exists until loneliness kicks in, until social pressure demands conformity, or until validation is needed. Sigma males? They are independent by nature, not by circumstance. They don't rely on social validation. They don't need constant company, and they don't seek approval for their choices. They can disappear for months, focused on their own goals without feeling the slightest bit left out. And that level of detachment from the social world makes people deeply uncomfortable. Why? Because most people fear isolation. They assume that someone who spends too much time alone must be unhappy, bitter, or plotting something. They can't comprehend the idea that solitude can be a choice, a preference, not a punishment. But Sigma males aren't lonely, they're selective. They engage with people when they choose, but never out of obligation. They don't waste energy on shallow connections, forced interactions, or mindless socializing. And because they don't follow the unspoken rules of constant engagement, they seem unpredictable, maybe even dangerous. This is why they are often misunderstood as cold, antisocial, or emotionally distant. But in reality, Sigma males aren't withdrawn. They're just free. Free from meaningless conversations, free from social expectations, free from the constant need to belong. And that freedom? It terrifies people who can't imagine life without external validation. Because at the end of the day, the Sigma male's solitude isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. While others waste time fearing isolation, he thrives in it, sharpening his mind, building his skills, and mastering his own world. And by the time anyone realizes what he's been doing, he's already 10 steps ahead. Number 11, they see through illusions and call out society's lies. Society is built on carefully crafted illusions, false narratives designed to keep people obedient, distracted and controlled. Governments spin half-truths. Corporations sell happiness in a bottle. Social norms dictate what's acceptable without questioning whether it actually makes sense. Most people accept these illusions without question because it's easier than facing reality. But Sigma males, they see right through it all. And worse, they aren't afraid to call it out. This makes them a serious problem for those who benefit from deception. Sigma males don't just passively observe the world's lies, they actively reject them. They don't buy into fake success metrics, celebrity worship, or herd mentality. They don't allow media, trends, or public opinion to dictate their values, and because they refuse to play along, they become a threat. Society doesn't like people who think for themselves, it likes people who comply. This is why Sigma males are often labeled as cynical, rebellious, or even dangerous. Their refusal to engage in groupthink makes them unpredictable, and their ability to expose hypocrisy makes people uncomfortable. No one likes being told that the system they blindly follow is a rigged game. No one likes hearing that their deeply held beliefs might not be their own, but rather installed programming. So, instead of facing these uncomfortable truths, people attack the messenger. And here's the brutal truth. Sigma males don't care. They don't need validation, they don't seek approval, and they don't care if society labels them as outcasts. They know that truth isn't determined by popularity. It exists whether people accept it or not. So while the rest of the world is busy protecting their illusions, Sigma males continue to navigate life on their own terms, armed with clarity that few will ever have. And that clarity, it's power. Because in a world full of blind followers, the man who sees the truth controls his own destiny. The greatest trick society ever pulled was convincing people that thinking for themselves was dangerous. Sigma males aren't villains. They aren't rebels without a cause. They aren't cold, heartless masterminds lurking in the shadows. They are simply men who refuse to be controlled. They don't play by the rules society forces on them. And that alone is enough to make people uneasy. They are strategic, independent, unreadable, and brutally honest. They see through the illusions, reject the emotional traps, and operate on a level of logic that most can't comprehend. They don't need validation, don't crave approval, and don't waste time explaining themselves. And in a world where most people are desperate to fit in, a man who moves entirely on his own terms will always be misunderstood. That's why they're seen as villains, not because they're evil, but because they are untouchable. You can't manipulate them, you can't predict them, you can't break them down with guilt, shame, or peer pressure. And that level of self-mastery, it terrifies people. But the Sigma male doesn't care what society thinks of him. He doesn't need permission to live life on his own terms. While others waste time trying to figure him out, he's already 10 steps ahead, building his own empire in silence. Because in the end, the greatest power isn't in being feared or admired, it's in being truly free. If this breakdown of the Sigma male mindset blew your mind, then you're exactly the type of person who belongs here. This channel is all about raw, unfiltered truth, the kind most people are too afraid to say out loud. So if you're tired of clichés and ready for next-level insights, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Don't just watch, be part of the conversation. Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button so more people can see it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Because the world needs more people who think for themselves and less who blindly follow the script.